Welcome to Lantern Voices. The views and opinions expressed by the guests in this episode do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of Lantern Publishing and Media. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to Season 2 of Lantern Voices. I am so happy to be here with you. We have a brand new season with new guests discussing great talks about veganism, animal rights, and social justice. If you're new here, first of all, thanks for joining us. And second, let me introduce ourselves. My name is Luisa. I work at Lantern Publishing and Media, a nonprofit book publisher based in Woodstock, New York. We have been around for a while, since the year 2000 to be exact. But since 2020, we have been focusing our book publications in works that talk about veganism, animal rights, and social justice. Now, if you have been with us through Season 1, and depending on where you're streaming this episode, you might have noticed something a little bit different, something a little more visual, perhaps. You can actually see me. We're testing out the video format for our podcast this season. We were sort of caught by surprise when the podcast server that we use started to support video earlier this month. We had already recorded our first 3 episodes thinking that they were going to be audio only, but we got the news for the video and we decided to go for it. So the first 3 episodes you might get during the interview, just a regular Zoom recording. We apologize for that, and we will get better starting on episode 4, I promise. But we would love to hear your feedback, your kind words. Please know that it's new for us too, and we are testing it out, but we want to make the podcast even better for all of you who have been supporting us. So any kind words and feedback are appreciated. Just send us via DM on Instagram at LanternPM. Now let's get back on track. For those of you who are new here, on Lantern Voices, we chat with authors that have published books through Lantern Publishing and Media. Our episodes are about 45 minutes to an hour long. But when we have more than one guest like we do today, they might run a little bit longer than usual. If you clicked on this episode, it is very likely that you're interested in learning more about transitioning into a vegan lifestyle. Well, you and I both. I've been vegetarian for 18 years now, and I've been going vegan for the past year or so. I admit it has been some time, definitely more than the 4 weeks that our guests will talk about this episode and they talk about in their book. But hey, it's better to keep trying than to abandon the quest altogether. I had some pretty big life changes last year that impacted my life and my diet, but luckily I had the opportunity to count not only with the support of my friends, my colleagues here at Lantern, but also with the amazing community of Lantern authors, and now so do you. If you're like me and one of your 2026 life goals is to become fully vegan, join us. If you're just curious, you're so welcome to be here too. Just be nice. Remember, this is a space for support for folks who want to transition into veganism, and just sit down, enjoy the conversation. Now, if you're already vegan, please share your knowledge with us. Either go to the comments if you're listening to this episode on Spotify or YouTube, or head over to Instagram. We are at Lantern PM over there. To start our second season, we invited not one, but 2 incredible authors. Both of them already published individually with us in the past, and they decided to join forces and write together a book that just came out last fall. It's called Vegan Made Easy. It is a helpful guide for folks like me, like you, who are interested in transitioning into a vegan life. What to cook, what foods can be used to replace animal products in your diet, and even what to answer to those annoying, well-meaning, you know what I'm talking about, people who think that they have an argument against veganism that you never heard of before. The authors of this amazing book are Dr. Joanne Kong and Dr. Camila Perussello. Joanne has been with us since 2021, and she published an anthology called Vegan Voices. Her book quickly became one of our bestsellers. Bringing together authors from many paths of life, Vegan Voices offers a great panorama of veganism through a collaborative approach. Camila published Food for Thought with us in 2022. In her book, she brings a science-based approach to the environmental and societal impacts of eating animals. You can see how much Vegan Made Easy is one-of-a-kind book, right? With these 2 powerhouses working together, of course it is. I promise now that I'm wrapping this introduction up. we're not usually running this long in introductions, but since this is the first chapter of our second season, and I confess I got a little excited, I wanted to share a bit more about the podcast for the new listeners and about the changes that we have in season 2, like the video format. Last announcement, our special discount for podcast listeners continues in season 2. So stay tuned until the very end of this episode to get the discount coupon that will give you 25% off in any of the titles ever featured in this podcast, including ones that were featured in season 1. The discount coupon will be valid for our ebook store only. Unfortunately, we still have no control over discount prices in other stores. And I'm looking at you, Amazon, and all the prices that they decide to put on our books. But our ebook store is managed by us, and we're finally able to give all of you podcast listeners this special discount. Now, let's finally get to our first episode of season 2. Everyone, let's welcome Doctors Joanne Kong and Camila Perussello to Lantern Voices. Camila, Joanne, welcome to Lantern Voices. Thank you very much for joining us on the first episode of our second season. Thank you for being here and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. We're glad to be here.
How are you doing? I think we're three different time zones here. So, Camila, how was your day? Joanne, are you excited for your day that's just starting? How is it going?
Yes, it's 1:30 p.m. right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very beautiful day here in Dublin today. It's like 8 degrees Celsius or something. So a beautiful sunny day.
Is your morning going well, Joanne? Are you excited for something today?
Yes, I'm a university professor, so it's a busy time of year, but Camila and I, we both lead very busy lives, but one of the most important things we do is advocating for veganism and animals. So we're so glad to have this opportunity to share about our project.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for making the time to be here with us. I will jump right on the first question. And just to contextualize a little bit who you are to our listeners, you both already had 2 books with Lantern. So Joanne published Vegan Voices, edited Vegan Voices with us, and Camilla published Food for Thought. And in last fall, the book you guys organized together was Vegan Made Easy. And it was a very well organized 7 different chapters that were more or less like sections approaching what I think is the whole transition from a non-vegan to a vegan life. Initially, I thought about skipping the first chapter altogether. It covers the why vegan, and our audience is already mostly vegans, but this is the first episode of our second season. It is an episode with the title and the description that will definitely catch the eyes of some veg curious people out there. So I wanted to start from the very beginning. Why vegan?
Well, there are so many reasons to be vegan. I think it's one of those lifestyle choices that's not just about diet. Of course, a lot of people go plant-based to improve their health. But I think everyone that does go vegan eventually realizes that it ties in with so much of our lives in terms of how we relate to other living beings, how we're taking care of the planet. It's one of the most positive things that someone can adopt as their lifestyle that will have the greatest impact.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, personally, I'm vegan for many reasons. First of all, because I don't view animals as objects. Also, because I care about people. Because I don't resonate with discrimination and violence. And because I care about my health and the health of the planet. But also, as an engineer, I see veganism as a basic alignment of logic and values, and consistency is something very important to me. And like Joanne just mentioned, many people mistake veganism for a diet, which is incorrect. Veganism is a social justice movement grounded in animal rights, the rights of non-human sentient individuals to be free from harm and exploitation. So, of course, eating plant-based food is an extension or a natural consequence of one's moral stance against the exploitation and killing of animals.
Mm-hmm.
And most of us agree that it is wrong to harm others, especially for shallow reasons like taste and fashion. But our society, and especially our food system, is built on a massive contradiction. We claim to value justice, yet we funnel resources into a system that is inherently violent and incredibly inefficient. So, why vegan? Because it is the most direct way to stop participating in that contradiction. So, whether you're motivated by justice, environment, or health, veganism is the common denominator. So, we wrote Vegan Made Easy because we wanted to turn that ethical realization into a simple day to day reality that anyone can achieve.
And I think it's also an issue of how we live in our society because we're constantly bombarded by advertisements, right? All kinds of every day, influences when we go to the grocery store and the things we see that suggest that it's a good choice to buy grass-fed cow or, oh, these are free-range eggs. I mean, there are so many aspects behind the whole marketing industry of meat and dairy that leads the unaware consumer into making what looks like compassionate choices when they're anything but. So I think part of what our book does is it really distills down the reasons for going vegan, and we give very concise information to give consumers knowledge. I think that's really what it comes down to is that every one of us, and we can do this with a sense of joy and discovery, right? That we're rediscovering food, learning about, well, what do these food labels mean? What am I actually buying? What is a nutritious choice? So I think that the plus of our book is that it gives a very easy to read, concise guide for readers to discover how they can become vegan.
And I wholeheartedly agree with that. And it actually ties in my comment that I had noted down about the book. I love how you say it's all about enjoying the journey. I really do. Apologies to new listeners, folks that have been here with us for a while know that I use this podcast to ask all my questions to the authors because I am in a vegan journey myself. And I mean, I have the great opportunity to talk to experienced people like you guys, and like all of our family of authors. And some of my questions might be some questions from folks that are out there. So you mentioned about being bombarded by advertising, being in a very rush lifestyle. And I do feel like that is an issue for me right now. I definitely passed the 4 weeks that you suggest in the book for transitioning. It's been a year now. So
Wonderful.
it's been a year of transition process, but I'll get there. And what I've been doing lately, the stage that I'm at is Wednesdays are a vegan day, fully vegan day. Other days of the week, at least one vegan meal. Usually, what I'm struggling with is that I'm many things. One of them is eating a lot of ultra processed foods. And in your book, you talk about whole foods and plant based. And I have a delicious farmer's market right down the street. So there are fresh vegetables every week if I want to go there and buy them. Do I find the time? Hardly. So I am in a point in my consciousness right now that every time that I end up to resorting to I see cheese or I see eggs, I just don't wanna eat it anymore. I've been vegetarian for 18 years, so adulthood for vegetarianism now, but turning vegan for a year. And I see all the animal-derived products, I don't want it anymore. But I look at it and I look at an Impossible Burger. Great that we have the option of sharing, like, if everybody's gonna eat a burger, we can have an option that is cruelty-free, but I don't wanna eat those burgers every day. I wanna eat healthy food. So, my question is, do you experience this challenge when you were transitioning? Do you always find it easy to go whole foods and go straight to vegetables? Are you people who like to cook maybe so that makes it easy? Or like what are your helpful tips for folks like me who are constantly busy and running around and who don't really like to cook very much?
Right. Well, to be honest, I never struggled with eating whole foods because I come from a culture and a household where we eat a lot of fresh fruits, veggie, beans, and rice in our everyday meals. And also, when I went vegan, I have been eating mostly plant-based for a long time, for many years. But I totally understand that the whole foods part can feel like a challenge for many people. especially because we are conditioned to think that healthy food equals complicated food and that processed food equals unhealthy, and that is scientifically incorrect, right?
I like that. Please continue.
So, one thing that we demonstrate in our book is that cooking healthy food, plant based, whole foods, is not complicated at all. Starting from the fact that we all eat plants and whole foods, most of us. So, we just need to add more of these foods and eat less to none of the rest, right? So, like you said, you're busy, and me too. I'm a busy professional. I absolutely struggle with time. So, let me share my strategy for
Please.
eating healthy every day. So, it's three steps. Let me try to simplify it. So, number one, right? I stick to some easy recipes that I really like and that I know that won't take more than 20 minutes to prepare, right? The second is I eat the same super healthy breakfast every single day to make my life easier. So it's oat milk. It's oatmeal with plant-based milk, any of your preference, lots of fruit, and a mix of seeds and nuts. And I just vary the type of plant-based milk and the fruits I use. And the third thing is something that I call component prep rather than meal prep, right? So instead of making five identical Tupperware meals that get soggy by the end of the week, I prep building blocks instead. So, for example, the grains, the protein, the veggies and greens, and let's say a magic versatile sauce, right? So, for the grains, an example would be a big pot of quinoa or brown rice. For the protein, roasted chickpeas or marinated tofu or beans or lentils. So I just mix and match these components throughout the week, and this makes my life so much easier.
Do you prepare the veggies right before you eat them, or do you make them part of your building blocks?
They're part of my building blocks. Yes.
Hmm. Thank you.
So I usually eat either steamed or raw veggies. So I just chop them and it's fine. And of course, when we are talking about salad, don't use any sauces during your preparation, and they will be fresh for many days.
True.
Yeah, those are all such great suggestions, Camila. And I think ultimately going vegan, it's really about simplifying our approach to putting meals together. I think we've been conditioned that anytime the newest diet fad comes out, it's like, oh, I have to buy all these expensive ingredients and it's very complicated and hard. And we need to help people understand that it's really about simplification. It's really about eating foods in as close to their natural state as possible. And one of the tips we give in the book is to prepare meals where you can add a whole variety of plant foods, grains, nuts, and seeds. You don't have to count calories. You don't have to, micromanage what you're eating. For instance, if you're putting a stew together or a Buddha bowl, there's really the sky's the limit, with how many vegetables and other healthy plant foods you can include in that. And it gives you a chance to be creative as well. So whether it's a soup or stew or maybe a chili mix of some kind. It's really very easy to incorporate a lot of healthy foods. And they say, eat the rainbow, right? So put as many different colors together. And that's kind of a nice, fun way to think about creating a vegan meal. And in terms of you were asking about some of the difficulties for me, I was 30 years of vegetarian and I've been vegan for about 10 to 11 years. And my motivation has always been the animals. So I've never, ever really had any kind of struggle where I was tempted to eat an animal product. So I think that for those of us that are ethically based, in many ways, it could be an easier journey. But those who do go vegan for health or environmental reasons, I think the beautiful thing is that once you do that, it opens up your awareness to the other aspects, to the animal aspects, the compassion aspects, because by going vegan, you're being kinder to yourself. And by doing that, that allows you then to be kind and expand that compassionate awareness to others. So we make the point in the book over and over too that going vegan, it's not about reaching some state of perfection. It's about moving in the right direction. There are so many ways that we don't even know about how animal products make their way into everything. So
Mhm.
it's about the journey and taking joy in that journey that every vegan meal you eat is helping the planet, it's helping animals. So I think there's just so many beautiful reasons to embrace veganism.
Would you like to be the first to know about new books, author events, and more? Then sign up for our newsletter. Delivered once a month to your inbox, our newsletters are curated with the latest lantern news. We also spotlight partner organizations so you can get to know a different sanctuary, activist group, or animal rights collective every month. Check the episode description for the sign up link. Angela Crawford is one of our authors. She published The Vegan Transformation last year with us. She was talking when she came over to the podcast how one of the most surprising aspects when she was interviewing folks for her books is how everyone, after becoming vegan, they found a spiritual relation of a sort with themselves and with the world around them. And I feel like in my journey in the past year, I've been feeling the same sensation in a way. Moving back from the United States back to Brazil last year was very impactful. I had forgotten how much folks in this area, particularly, are very connected with dairy farms and cheese and milk and etc. And then one day I found a vegan market that they were holding for a weekend, and I decided to just go there, meet new folks, and find out about the vegan business around and get community, find community. And it felt so nice to sit down in the backyard of a house with like nice, freshly prepared foods and just chatting with like minded people. And they were sharing their struggles, they were sharing their victories, and just how they view the world after they transition. And I felt very welcome, very at peace. I think that was a very important moment for my little key here to flip in my brain and be like, no, I can't do this anymore. The same way that happened when I first became a vegetarian, something had to shift in my brain. I was like, I can't do this anymore. No matter, I feel like in my part, I would never eat animal flesh again. It's just something that does not fit in my brain as like it's not food. And I feel like I'm getting there and I've got there with cheese and dairy and animal derived products now. That's not food in my brain. So yeah, I definitely agree that once you transition, you start seeing the world a little bit different. Plant-based options for foods are just way more than the 4 or 5 animals that people eat. So why can't we just eat vegetables if there are more options out there?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And another thing is also that, in my opinion, cooking animal products is much more intensive than cooking veggies, for example. So I don't really understand this mindset where people think that, eating plant based is hard. It's complicated. It's not. It's easy. Really. It is easy. Also, there's s- something that Joanne said about being kind to yourself when we go vegan. This is really important to, eating healthy, of course, is about being compassionate with ourselves, right? And eating healthy as anything in life is a matter of priorities, right? So I've heard the other day that the global average time spent on social media every day is 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours. So, yes, most of us do have 20 to 30 minutes to prepare healthy food, but we need to get our priorities right.
That is for sure. But my social media time because of my work is
Oh,
way more than that.
Yeah.
But I
yeah.
feel like that's like, I work with social media, so when I'm off the clock, I don't wanna be on my phone. But even so, like, I've been finding other hobbies and other things, or even watching TV shows on times that I could be meal prepping. I could be working harder towards something that is a goal of mine. This year, I really made it, like, fully vegan by 2026. It's my, end of the year goal, hopefully before that. So I've been sabotaging my brain in a way. So instead of putting the TV on and stuff, I will go to the kitchen and I'll prepare something and I'll put the show over there just as a background noise. So I transition my habit from sitting in the couch and like, okay, I'm gonna get takeout again to going to the kitchen and doing something. It's been working for me. Let's see. It's January, what, 13? So let's see how that works throughout the year.
So, Camila, you brought up an interesting thing about the food prep and, being complicated and that sort of thing. And I wrote a chapter in Hope Bohannik's book, The Humane Hoax. And in it, I talked about my own background. And one aspect I talked about that's part of the whole humane hoax thing is that sometimes we see food prep as a culinary art. And I can relate to that personally because growing up, I grew up, of course, in a Chinese American family, and my aunt was actually very well known as a chef in Hong Kong. She was actually called at one point the Julia Child of China. I mean, and I remember growing up visiting her in San Francisco, and she would have, of course, she was not vegan at all, and all of these very odd animal product ingredients and the complexity of the dishes we put together. And so we grew up with this idea of admiring her culinary skill of how she could put these beautiful, beautiful, tasty dishes together. So it kind of I think a lot of people are conditioned to some extent to seeing the preparation of eating animals as art, as a very special skill, and, "Oh, this is wonderful." So I think that's part of what we're pushing against too, is this idea that, like Camila, you said, that animals are ingredients. They are not ingredients. So it's a matter of looking beyond that and seeing who was on your plate, and it took me a while to see that until I realized what happens to animals in factory farms. It just never occurred to me, so working against that social family conditioning was really a big part of my journey.
And since we're talking about family, are you guys' family all vegan? How do you both navigate veganism with your own families and loved ones?
Yeah, I think the, family situations can be the most difficult, right? Because we're closest to our family members. My older sister is vegan, and it was really interesting because she never told me she was considering it, but she actually went vegan at about the time I started being a vegan advocate. So maybe something in, my brain waves was translating and traveling to her. And she is the only one in my family who's vegan. And I have to say that we have to bring a lot of patience and kindness to our relationships with our family members. And I remember one instance when my mom was visiting me and my husband here in Richmond, Virginia. She's not vegetarian or vegan. We went out to a restaurant, and of course, she ordered it was a Chinese restaurant, and she ordered an animal-based dish. And then we didn't anticipate this was gonna happen. She had leftovers. So she brought the leftovers back to our house. And of course, that was probably the first time in who knows how many years that part of an animal was in our house as food. And rather than make a big point about it and say, "Oh, mom, you can't bring that in the house," we just let it go because it would not have been worth the tension and the anxiety and having a big confrontation over it. So sometimes I think we have to nuance how we react to people, and ultimately, it's about maintaining that kind relationship with our family members. Camila, I don't know if you've had any instances with family that
Not I absolutely agree. And my family isn't all vegan. And in fact, my husband and I are the only ethical vegans in our respective families. But my parents, who are in their 70s and used to be massive meat eaters in the past, are now 95% plant based. So this is obviously a massive win, right? So it shows that when we make the how to easy and the why clear, people will naturally gravitate towards compassion, right? And then for my husband and I, the transition was very straightforward. We used to be vegetarians when we met, and we went vegan together. It happened the moment we learned the truth about the dairy industry, and we instantly understood how unfair it is to use animals, and we simply didn't want to be part of that anymore. But we also know that the how to can still feel overwhelming to some people, and that's why we wrote Vegan Made Easy. So we wanted to help people bridge the gap between making the moral decision and navigating the practical world, right? And so, what I learned through that process with my parents, for example, is that honesty and good food are both excellent forms of animal advocacy. So instead of making it a debate, I focus on first normalizing the food by making meals that, are so familiar and tasty that they didn't feel like a sacrifice to them, and also being compassionate towards our loved ones who are still learning, but without sugarcoating things, right? So animals suffer when we are not vegan, period. And I'm clear about that. So we don't have to dilute the importance and depth of animal rights to please people, right? We can inspire people by our example, right?
Yeah, I think you bring up a great point about being compassionate to others. And when we're interacting with others, it's really about just having a normal conversation, right? And you kind of gauge with each person you come upon to what extent it's appropriate and what kind of information to share. For instance, I think we've all been in this situation where maybe we've shared a meal, say at a restaurant, and the other person says, "You don't mind that I'm eating animals, do you?" I mean, that's a common question. So I think the best way to answer that question would be something like, that's interesting. Why did you bring up that question? In other words, answering their question with another question to then get the conversation going. And I think one of the strongest forms of advocacy is modeling how we ourselves come across to other people. Camila, I'm sure you've had the experience of people coming up to you. They think you look way younger than you actually are. It's like, how do you have so much energy? How do you stay so healthy? So being models of kind, compassionate, extraordinarily healthy people, I think that's really, really important. And in the book, I include a quote from Claire Mon, who wrote the book Vistopia. And she said that as we interact with the public, we should come across as well adjusted, wonderful people who also happen to be vegan. And I think that's a really good thing to remember all the time. So, yeah.
Yes.
And I think sometimes we've all had experiences perhaps with people who kind of pushed back at us or said something kind of snarky or rude, but you never know. Sometimes it's those people who aggressively push back. I think sometimes they're doing that because somewhere deep inside, something is resonating with them. And they realize, I think, that there's a reason for why we're vegan. So I think, positive communication with others, being sensitive, I think it's all part of what we do.
It's almost self-defense in a way. I was living in a different country, so I didn't have contact with my family as much as I'm having now. I'm going to have lunch at my grandmother's house every weekend. I'm going to have lunch at my dad's house every weekend. And usually conversations start, they're used to my vegetarianism for years now, but now with the transitioning to veganism and stuff, other conversations are starting. And I was in a discussion with my dad the other day about when he attacked with a snarky response, and I was like, it's okay to feel defensive if you feel like you're doing something that you don't agree with, but you don't want to stop, so you don't know what to do. You kind of get stuck in that uh, cognitive dissonance, as they say. So I'm like, I understand why you're attacking me this way, but it's
Totally.
right. You're in your journey. I'm in mine.
Absolutely. And it's also related to the human fear of change, right? So the fear of change sometimes translates into aggressive reactions. One thing that I do, and that may sound like a bit more spiritual or something, is that sometimes when I look at people that are, let's say, aggressive or reactive or even mean, I just um, look at them as they were children, like wounded children that just need to be treated with compassion, something like this. And it helps me to be patient, with people who are not that kind to animals or other people or vegans, especially.
Mhm.
Yes, sometimes I just love that approach. That's so wonderful. And actually, this morning when I was driving into school, I was crossing an intersection or turning right or something, and I had to yield to another car, and the car in back of me honked. And of course, but in a way, that was sort of like, okay, this person should not have honked his horn at me, but he did not see what I was seeing. And so that kind of reminded me that we don't totally know who another person is. We just don't know. And I was thinking, gee, maybe that person's late for work, or maybe that person's having a hard time. So I think just bringing compassion to those that maybe come at us in a negative sort of way. I think everything we can do to help nurture where they are on their path, I think is really important.
I do need to learn more from your book and from, like, the whole patience aspect and being a model person, as you said. I was reading the, question section in your book, and I was seeing how the answers were very kind. And I'm like, I need this level of patience. I think I'm gonna memorize some of the answers just so I can, fake it till you make it. I'll fake that I'm patient until I'm actually there, because sometimes sometimes I'm just angry, and I think might be I spoke with other authors and I was speaking with Emma Hackinson, who published Subhuman with us during her book launch in New York, and others of her friends who were closer in age with me. Like, we were all in our late 20s at the time, and they were vegans for longer, and they were like, "It's okay," because I was very angry when I was in your stage and in your age, and I just wanted to punch people, but it's okay. Remember why you're doing this. It's supposed not to be violent, so you'll get there. It's just breathe in, breathe out, go through it, it's gonna be okay. So, yeah, definitely it's a struggle, but I love the way that you put in your book. I can see the kindness in the words that you put there, so I think I'm gonna memorize
Oh,
that.
thank you so much. We did our
Thank
best.
you.
It is never too late to start learning about veganism, or too early. On our website, you will find a variety of books, ebooks, and picture books to learn more about animal rights. Go to lanternpm.org and check it out. Because we were talking about the question section, and there's one that you talk about, if animals eat other why animals, why can't I? And then in there you mentioned that some certain species are strict carnivores like cats. And that got me wondering, I am very new to this, so sorry if this is like a basic question, but how do vegans feel about having other species as pets, interacting with pets, and having to attend to the dietary needs of these other species? I heard that dogs are not strict carnivores, I think, so it's okay to give them plant-based meals, but cats are. So how does that work?
Yeah, I
Oh,
think can I just start with the definition of pets maybe?
Mhm,
Because you mentioned pets, right, in your question. And pets is a term that of course refers to domesticated animals
mhm.
kept for companionship rather than utility. But sometimes pets is considered as a non-vegan term because it may suggest ownership and a implied hierarchical relationship between humans and other animals. So I usually prefer to use the term companion animals to emphasize a more respectful relationship.
Mhm.
But of course, I'm talking about the same thing, whether I'm using pets or companion animals. So I just wanted to clarify this before I answer your question. So, in the case of vegans, of course, we share our lives with companion animals as their guardians, right? And of course, rescuing animals in need, for example, is an act of respect and kindness. And in my personal experience, I've always rescued cats and dogs since I was a little girl. Actually, that compassion and loving care towards animals was actually the reason that made me go vegetarian at a very young age, even though I didn't know any other vegetarians, let alone vegans. I didn't even know the term vegan existed, right? So, as vegans, of course, we don't own animals. We don't see them as property or things that we can choose from. So, for example, we'd never buy an animal because they belong to a specific breed. So, vegans are, of course, not part of any system of animal exploitation. So, when we adopt animals, the goal is to provide a safe, loving space for animals who often have nowhere to go, right? So it's an act of rescue and love and stewardship. Now, the other part of your question was about cats being strict carnivores, right?
Yeah.
So this is actually a moral not for vegans, meaning like you're helping an animal while you're hurting others. So it's complicated from the moral point of view. But this is where science becomes vital because cats are obligate carnivores, as you said, meaning they require specific nutrients like taurine that in nature they get from animal flesh. And dogs, however, are biologically omnivores, so they don't need animal products to survive. However, the science on pet food is evolving very fast. And we know that both cats and dogs can live well on a plant based diet. And in fact, a plant based diet can improve their health and extend their lifespan. So, in the case, for example, of plant based food for cats, to meet their biological requirements, what happens is that, for example, taurine, the essential amino acid, is added at certain levels to the food.
Yeah, I, visited Camila in Dublin a couple years ago, and I can attest that her cats are beautiful, beautiful, and they're healthy, and I just fell in love with them right away. Yeah, the whole aspect of pets, and I agree that we should see them as companions, that they're equals, and I think it's a wonderful way for as an entry point for people to consider veganism because pets are treasured as family members. I mean, think of how people grieve when a pet dies. I mean, I don't know, just the connection is so intense. Camila has cats. I have a couple parrots. And one of the parrots is an African gray parrot. African grays, along with crows and ravens, are some of the most intelligent animals. And this parrot of mine, he actually talks. So when he communicates and talks to me, he knows what he's saying, you know. So here's an example of an animal who's been considered to have the cognitive ability of a 3-year-old. And it's always an important lesson for me every day that I see that every animal has their own individual life, their own individual awareness. They are intelligent. They communicate through body language, through speak, through the way, you know, he might scream or make noise. So every time we interact with our companion animals is a time to celebrate the individuality and beauty of every single animal. That all animals, instead of seeing cows as just this massive, you know, indistinguishable animal product. No, you're gonna see them instead as individual beings. I think that's what we're trying to do as advocates, that we change the view of how animals are seen, that they are individuals just like all humans are individuals.
Yeah, and absolutely, my parents both in their households have, companion animals. They have 2, one dog one side, another dog on the other side, and the relationship that they build with them, they know their personalities, they know what they like, what they don't, and Lola is my mom's dog. She, she's a very, very spoiled Yorkie, and she knows when is it time to wake up? When is it time to for breakfast? When is the time for her medicine? Because she has to take, when it's time for dinner, when it's time to go to bed. And she comes and she calls you. So she has all that like regulated schedule and you don't have to worry about. She will remind you. She knows. So and it's all her personality. My dad's dog is completely different. He's a little agent of chaos, and he's very happy being this way. So it's very funny to see them before living with animals, and now that they have an animal in their household, a known human animal in their household, and how they interact with them. So yeah, I can see how that makes a difference.
Yeah, animals are lovely. And I have 4 rescue cats, as Joanne mentioned. And actually, my last book, by Lantern Food for Thought, was dedicated to my cat Brenda. She passed away at the incredible age of 19 years. She
Wow.
was also a rescue cat. I adopted her when she was a tiny baby, and she was extremely important in my life and always will be. I get emotional just, talking about her. But going back to the pet food topic, just to sum it up, one thing that I forgot to say is that some vegans choose to, let's say, prioritize the cat's biological health by feeding them regular cat food, while others support, for example, plant-based brands and brands that are working toward um, lab lab meat or clean meat solutions, right? So the takeaway is that, of course, we do the least harm possible within the circumstances we are in. So it's not about perfection, but like Joanne said, it's about looking at every being, with whether a dog, a cat, or a cow, as someone worthy of moral consideration. So that's what veganism is all about.
Yeah, it ties very neatly with our first question. Lantern Publishing and Media is a book publisher devoted to animal rights. You can get news about our books, tips on veganism, inspirational quotes, and connection to our community of readers by following us on social media. We are on TikTok at Lantern PM Official, on Instagram and Blue Sky as Lantern PM. On LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube, we are Lantern Publishing and Media. If you are on any of these social media channels, consider giving us a follow. It really helps our content to reach more people. All of the links are on the episode's description. As I mentioned before, I feel like your book is a very complete one, and among the various resources you offer, there are suggestions of recipes, books, websites, even apps. So while you were doing your research, was there something surprising about the resources you found? Maybe a cool app you never heard about, life-saving website, documentary that you didn't watch before? Was there anything of the sort?
I think for me, I just realized just how much is out there. There's an extraordinary amount of resources, and it's just so wonderful that at the time that we're advocating for animals and for veganism, that it's at a time where there's an explosion of things on the internet and documentaries just in the past 10 years even. There are so many resources out there, and I think that's the thing that struck me the most as we were coming up with our list. And I know some people can be overwhelmed, perhaps, by saying, oh, there's so much stuff out there. Where do I start? What do I do? One tip we give in the book is to keep a recipe log as you're exploring plant-based meals, whether they're brand new recipes or maybe recipes where you veganized a dish that you had before. Keep track of, hey, this is a really good fake tuna recipe. This is a really good chili recipe. This is a great pasta carbonara recipe that Camila has in the book, you know, how many different meals do you actually need to have? Like, if you could put together 5 good dinner ideas, 3 good lunch ideas, and eat basically the same breakfast every day, it doesn't really take that long to come up with a small repertoire of recipes. And then you just sort of gradually add to that. So that kind of gives you a very objective way of seeing what your progress is, because you're seeing that you have recipes and you know that they have very easy ingredients to buy, and then you're simply building from that. So yes, I think that the amount of resources is amazing.
I love this, and you got me an idea. I really, really enjoy scrapbooking and doing like lots of kinds of work with paper in my hands. And I have a recipe, like a cookbook, that is just a notebook so you can note down recipes that I got as a birthday gift. And it has a lot of space for scrapbooking. So I'm thinking that on Wednesday nights, that's usually when I have more time and it's the day that I go fully vegan, I can start brainstorming some recipes in the kitchen and adding to this scrapbook and creating a scrapbook of vegan recipes so I can like join everything that I like and make the process even more enjoyable. So just occurred to me. I'm gonna definitely try that tomorrow. Thank you.
Yeah, and one of the things, of course, we talk about how important it is, like Louisa, you were talking about gathering with others that are like-minded. So many communities now, like here in Richmond, Virginia, we have a veg society that does monthly potlucks where you can get recipes and meet others. There's so many veg fests around, around the world, podcasts, Zoom joining opportunities. There's just so much out there. So I think it's so easy in this day and age to find support, whether it's in person or online, attending a conference. So get out there in the world. Those of you interested in going vegan, and make connections. It's fun. It helps you share ideas and get ideas as you're on your journey.
Mhm.
Louisa, you asked about resources on veganism, and I was thinking that usually when people think of vegan resources, they often think of cookbooks, apps, or documentary attention to published research. I know I'm a nerd, but I'm naturally drawn to the data. So, what surprised me most while writing this book is just how rapidly science is evolving in relation to veganism and sustainable food systems. So, the most surprising resource for me actually was the sheer volume of new scientific literature. So, it's amazing to see how many papers are being published right now, not just in my direct field of food and bioprocess engineering, but also across environmental and social sciences, for example. So we're seeing studies from 2024 and 2025, for example, that prove over and over again that a vegan diet is the best way to mitigate the climate crisis, feed a growing population, and save species from extinction. And in the social science field, we're finally seeing more serious academic work on how to dismantle the social barriers to veganism. So things like navigating masculinity or cultural traditions. So in our book, Vegan Made Easy, what we do is we take that high level academic research and translate it into something that you can actually use in your everyday life.
Mila has a wonderful section in the book where she lists the various substitutions that you can do for animal products. And
I
that's
love
for super healthy. Yes, super healthy ingredients, and it's just really practical. Really gives you the nuts and bolts of how you can prepare vegan meals.
I love that section so much, especially because what I've been struggling the most to replace are eggs. And I went straight to the egg section. I was like, okay, what can I do? And then there were like 3 different options or 4. And I was like, yeah, this works for culinary. This works for like scrambled tofu. Yeah, absolutely. And I was just taking notes because, again, if I feel, yeah, I still feel so bad. And I don't like buying eggs anymore. And I really need to find something to replace it. And I think the book was very helpful for me in that aspect. I'm here representing the publisher, but I'm also representing the readers because I've been
I love
using it a lot. What is your favorite recipe from the book?
Oh gosh. That's I mean, you can't ask that sort of question because it's impossible to answer. I mean, I have to say that because I visited, Camila and her husband in Dublin, Fernando made this wonderful I think it's called rainbow salad, and we had it a few
Oh,
times.
yeah.
It
His
is
famous salad.
so good. I mean, it has all these colorful veggies in it, and I couldn't stop eating it. It was so delicious, so I guess I would say out of the book, I love that recipe.
Amazing.
That's lovely to hear. It's like just, I've tested around 80% of the recipes in the book. We've received recipes from different contributors, and it's really hard to pick just one. But in all modesty, I usually point people toward a recipe of my own that is called pasta carbonara. Really, guys, you have to try this recipe. If you haven't heard of it, pasta carbonara is a classic Italian dish made with pasta, eggs, cheese, pig meat or pork, and black pepper. And of course, my version of pasta carbonara is harm-free and much healthier. It's rich, it's creamy, and it uses simple ingredients to recreate that comfort food feeling. So I really recommend it. And the good part about it is that it's a crowd pleaser, right? So that's one of the goals of Vegan Made Easy, which is we wanted to offer recipes that aren't good despite being vegan, as some people say, but are honestly, delicious and healthy. And another recipe that I really like is a cherry ice cream by British vegan chef Marlene Watson Tara that takes just a few ingredients. It's super easy to prepare and takes about, I don't know, 10 to 15 minutes of actual work, and it looks super fancy. So I really, really recommend it. I also have to say that the book has recipes for all skill levels. Our recipe contributors aren't just chefs or the two of us, but also our colleagues, our friends, our family members who are all busy people and don't necessarily have any special cooking skills. So we want people to realize that they don't have to be intimidated by plant-based cooking.
Fantastic. I think I have my menu for tomorrow. Thank you.
I hope you like it.
Well, we are nearing the end of our episode, so I want to open the floor for you both to advertise any project you're currently working on or that you like our listeners to know about. So, if there's anything coming up, any books, any writing, any events, any participation anywhere, floor is all yours.
Yeah, well, here in the US, we have what's called Vegan Summerfest, which is held up in Pennsylvania, and it's a fantastic conference. It's for anyone interested in veganism. All the top US plant-based doctors are there. It's a great learning experience where people can attend a lot of seminars and ask questions and interact and have all vegan food for 5 days. That's in July, so I will be speaking there, and of course, I'm gonna talk about our book and have our book on sale. I'll also be in Eugene, Oregon for a Veg Fest, which is actually run by Hope Bohannic. So I'm gonna be there in, I think, May. And then, Camila, you might wanna talk about the festival in Ireland that I think we're both planning on going to.
Yes, so there is this wonderful summer vegan fest around August, if I'm not mistaken. So if you're based in Ireland or Europe, we are going to be talking about our book there. So we invite everyone to be there with us.
That's awesome. I will look for the links and etc. information online about those festivals so I can add to the podcast description. We usually edit, so if listeners want to know more, they can just head over to the podcast description and all the information will be there.
Do we have like a couple more minutes? I just wanted to say something. I don't want to advertise any events, but I was just thinking that for those interested in science and data, I just published a new peer-reviewed paper in a journal called Sustainable Development. It's a paper titled Towards Sustainable and Ethical Food Systems, Exploring Consumer Motivations and Strategies for Plant-Based Eating. This is a multidisciplinary paper that explores the role of veganism in global sustainability goals, and most importantly, how to accelerate a plant-based food system. And also based on a survey of 500 people following a plant-based diet around the world, we present very useful data for vegan activists on everything from health outcomes of a plant-based diet to activism strategies and tools that are most effective. So the paper is open access, so anyone can read it for free. So please use it in your activism and cite it so that we can accelerate positive change. Thank you.
Great. Oh, that's awesome. I love papers with open access. I will definitely add them to the episode links as well. All right.
Lovely. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Take care. And I'll see you soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a lovely day, everyone.
Thank you very much for being with us on the first episode of season 2 of Lantern Voices. I hope you enjoy the conversation with Joanne Kong and Camila Perussello. Now, as promised, here is your special discount coupon. If you feel like buying a digital copy of Vegan Made Easy, head over to lanternpm.org. Then on the menu on the top, you'll see ebook store. Click on ebook store, browse, and then on the menu on the left-hand side, you will find the books that were featured in our podcast. Over there, select Vegan Made Easy or any of the titles and proceed to checkout. Before hitting the pay button, you can add the discount coupon, Lantern Voices 25. That is Lantern Voices, like the podcast name, and the numbers 2 and 5. All together, no spaces. This will give you 25% off your purchase of any ebook ever featured here on Lantern Voices, seasons 1 or 2. Happy reading, and we'll see you again next month when we'll chat with an author that published a book in 2024 telling us about her inspiring life story. She's an activist from Taiwan and founded one of the first animal rights NGOs in Asia. Do you know who she is already? Send us our guesses in the comments or on Instagram at LanternPM. We'll see you again next month. Bye!